Good evening, friends.
Okay.
Today we have a ongoing series, 6th day for Ind AS series. We have once again CA Rajesh Mody sir with us. Would like to request CA Abhishek Shah to introduce sir.
Yeah, thank you, Virat. Welcome, Rajesh sir. Welcome, TC Bafna sir. So, just to introduce Rajesh sir, already he has given one lecture yesterday, but today, as a formal introduction, he has around 25 years experience. He was a partner in Rajiv Shah and Company, and he is currently with CNK and Associate as a director statutory audit. He hands-on the experience in advising clients for phase 1 companies in Ind AS implementation, as well as advising in phase 2 companies Ind AS implementation. He has addresses members and students in the area of accounting standard, auditing, and Ind AS. He is a regular speaker at study circle, study group, and Ind AS topics. He is highly rated faculty in IFRS certificate course conducted by ICI. He is a subject editor of financial reporting for Walter Curve, CCH. He has trained credit appraisal officer of SEBI and Exim Bank on IFRS subject. He is a convener of accounting and auditing committee of BCAS for 2018-19 and a core group member. He is a convener of IFRS study circle of BCAS for 18-19. He is empaneled as a technical reviewer with FARB of ICI. With vast level of this kind of experience and knowledge, I request sir to please take the charge and start the session.
Yeah. Thank you, Abhishek, for the kind introduction once again. Actually, friends, good evening. Yesterday we covered 2 topics, and today another 2 topics we are going to cover, and that are also very relevant and important topics. So today's agenda will be to cover. So actually, in your schedule, it is mentioned that 23 will be the first one, but I would prefer in 104, 105 to be taken first. So I will start with actually 105. So non-current assets held for sale and discontinued operation we will take first, and then second part will be my borrowing costs. So that way I will be taking today's session. So let us start now. So yesterday I was talking about that there is a conceptual framework for financial reporting under our Ind AS regime also, and as far as IASB is concerned, for IFRS standard also there is one framework. So they call it as a conceptual framework. So yesterday in Ind AS-1, when you have studied, you must have gone through that we have elements of financial statements. So again I will re-emphasize that this slide which is there now on your screen, actually before you enter to any accounting standard, first you should try to identify the transactions which you have entered into fulfills which of these criteria. It falls into which category out of this definition of elements of financial statement, because this is very, very important. And second, yesterday also I have told that once you identify that you fulfill the definition of that item element, then next is when to recognize that item into your financial statements. There I think we have seen that 2 conditions has to be fulfilled, right? So once you do both these steps, then you identify which Ind AS applies to that particular transaction, and then go to that standard. So this is the actually steps you should follow before you actually go on to pass the entry in the books. So this is how it should be, because recognition comes later stage. First important is how whether you in which category you which element as per the definition you are able to fulfill. So that's why this slide is very, very, very relevant for us. Next. So now we will cover Ind AS 105 non-current assets held for sale and discontinued operation. So as the name suggests, first thing, this applies only wherever there is a non-current asset. So how they have defined non-current asset actually? they are saying that non-current asset is defined under Ind AS-1. So there we have seen extensively that how they have defined actually current assets. And if you are not falling under that current asset, then it is non-current asset. That is how in a negative way they have defined non-current asset, right? So first thing, only to non-current assets this standard will apply. And second thing, it should be held for sale. So if it is not held for sale, you are not coming to this standard, you are going somewhere else. So these are the two things. And also it applies to discontinued operation. We will be seeing what exactly each item means, but this always you have to keep in mind when you have to enter into this standard. So objective, it specifies the accounting for assets held for sale and the presentation and disclosure of discontinued operation. So you can segregate into two parts. One is it deals with how to account. So there it will be recognition as well as measurement will be involved. So measurement, how to do, what kind of assets are to be covered for measurement, and what kind of presentation and disclosures are required when there is a discontinued operation. So this is how you have to read. It covers two parts actually, and it clearly says that how to classify, and once it is classified based on the conditions when you fulfill, then how to measure that. So these are the steps actually. So if you see now, this standard is very simple in that way. If conceptually you are clear why they are saying what to do, if you are very clear about that, then I don't think anytime you will face any kind of difficulty when you are actually dealing with such situation in practical life. So that's why we will deal more into concepts. Otherwise standard is very small actually, if you see few pages, but people get confused because of the jargons they are using in the standard itself. So if you are able to conceptualize that exactly what the crux of the standard is, then I think it becomes very simple to understand how to apply. Logical, it is very logical. So by the end of this lecture, I think everybody of you will be very clear what the standard requires you to do. I don't think there will be any doubt in your mind. So coming to that, Ind AS 105 requires us to that assets that meet the criteria to be classified held for sale to be measured at the lower of carrying amount and fair value less cost to sell, and the day when you are able to fulfill those criteria and you are able to classify that non-current asset as held for sale, depreciation on such asset will cease from that day. Because from that day you are saying I am holding this asset for this sale. So once you decide that, it means your depreciation stops. So this is how the standard mandates us to do. And also, as I said, it is also dealing with second part, that is assets that meet the criteria to be classified held for sale to be presented separately in the statement of balance sheet, and the result of discontinued operation to be presented separately in the statement of profit and loss. So here they want that, yes, user or reader of the financial statement should know out of this total assets with the company is holding, assets and liabilities, how much is for disposal, for sale. And they also would like to know if there is some discontinued operation which has happened during the period, then what is the effect on the total financial statement, means total profit and loss of my business, how much impact because of that discontinued operation is, that also reader should know. That's why standard says that once you are qualifying for this applicability of standard, then not only that measurement will apply, also you will have to present it accordingly separately, and results also has to be shown separately in the statement of profit and loss. This actually goes line in line, right? Next. So now once you understood what the scope is, Now the application. The classification and presentation requirements of this Ind AS applies to all recognized non-current assets and to all disposal groups of an entity. So one is classification and presentation part, that applies to both non-current assets held for sale as well as disposal group. Measurement requirements of this Ind AS apply to all recognized non-current asset disposal group except for those assets that we will be dealing where there are specific Ind ASs which says that measurement of those assets, you come to those standards. So for that, this measurement application will not apply for those assets. And obviously, once you go through that type of assets, you will understand, because in all the other standards also, wherever measurement related to this type of assets were there, they have said that you have to go to that particular standard for measurement. Rest of all other items, for that we have to come to 105. So which are those assets? Next. So as it is said, the measurement provisions of this Ind AS do not apply to the following assets which are covered by the Ind AS is listed either as individual asset or as a part of disposal group. So if suppose you are selling of a division, and in that division you may find that okay, it's a separate kind of business unit, so you must have that independent balance sheet for that. Suppose then you will find that in that group you will have deferred tax assets also possibility. You will have assets arising from employee benefits. You may have certain financial assets which is called under 109. So this standard says that wherever any of these assets are included in the disposal group, for measurement of those areas, Ind AS 105 measurement requirements will not apply. Specific requirement as per those related standards, how they are saying how to measure, you have to go to that standard, measure those items and come back here for 105. So for this particular 5 items, measurement principle of 105 will not apply. Next. Yeah. Now, as we have seen that this also applies to disposal group, right? So it's like a business, separate business line, separate unit. This covers that also, not only individual assets, group of assets also, which may be form part of a CGU, we call it as, right, cash generating unit. So that assets or group of assets will also include some other assets like current assets also, current liabilities also, right? Because if I'm saying that I'm disposing of the whole unit, then it will include everything, debtors, receivables, payables, everything, stock. So current assets as well as non-current assets will be there. So standard says that you have to consider everything as a one group, okay, and overall basis you apply 105 standard measurement. So that we will see how to apply. But in nutshell, this standard applies to non-current assets. If it is an individual asset, then also it applies. It also applies to a disposable group, which is a separate line of business, separate line, separate maybe a division, a separate branch. So that we call it as a disposable group. So it applies to the whole group of assets and liabilities of that particular division, which we call it as a CGU, which may consist of non-current assets as well as current assets and liabilities also, right? So that is what you have to keep in mind. Plus, this standard also covers if it is held for sale or if non-current assets are to be distributed to owners by way of a dividend. So if I think you have covered Ind AS-10 also, right? So in that there is a separate appendix which covers the specific item. A distribution to owners in the capacity as owner. So if you are distributing assets to owners as in the capacity of owner, that we call it as a dividend you are distributing by way of in kind. So for those kind of if you have decided that you are going to distribute those non-current assets to the owners by way of a dividend, then also it becomes like held for distribution. Those non-current assets, we call it as held for distribution if you fulfill 105 criteria, and accordingly all those principles of 105 will apply to those kind of non-current assets also, which you are going to distribute to owners as a dividend, which is covered under Appendix A of Ind AS-10. So this is also you have to keep in mind. Principles are same. So that's why they will, everywhere you will see in the standard, they are repeating that if it is held for sale, also it applies to held for distribution. Same principles. Right. Next. Okay. Definitions. A discontinued operation is a component of an entity that either has been disposed of or is classified as held for sale and represents a separate major line of business or geographical area of operations, is part of a single coordinated plan to dispose of a separate major line of business, or is a subsidiary acquired exclusively with a view to resell. So this is how the standard defines what is discontinued operation. Because as we have seen, name of the standard itself is non-current asset held for sale and discontinued operation. So this is how they define what is my operation. So it is a separate, as we have seen, separate line, separate entity, branch, maybe separate division. So this they call it as a, and for which you are actually preparing everything as a single coordinated plan to dispose. Then this standard applies to that area. Or you have acquired some subsidiary which with the intention to resell, exclusive the V to resell, then also 10511. Classification. So as again name suggests, it is for held for sale, right? So you are very clear that now I am not going to use that non-current asset for my business purpose, and I am not going to recover the cost of that asset through use, but mainly through sell transaction. So an entity shall classify a non-current asset as held for sale if its carrying amount will be recovered principally through a sale transaction rather than through continuing use. Now, once you have decided, okay, I want to dispose of this non-current asset or dispose that particular operation of my business, but then when you can actually classify that decision in your financials as a non-current assets held for sale. It is not that because of intention standard permits you to disclose that way. No, it's strictly, there are very strict provisions in the standard. If you are able to fulfill those conditions, then and only then this can be classified in the financial statement. Till that time it will continue be carried as if it was earlier done. There is no change. So classification will arise once you are able to fulfill those conditions, and those are very, very strictly to be followed. Here it is not, the standard is not at all giving any leeway. It is not lenient. All conditions are very, very strict and must be complied before you classify the asset as a non-current asset held for sale, right? Because everything will change once you do that, or it will have an impact on your financial statements. That's why these conditions are very stringent. So let us now look what are my conditions. So conditions to be satisfied for classification are that group or that non-current asset must be available for immediate sale in its present condition, subject only to terms that are usual, like pending agreement, registration of agreement. I think all those customary things. Otherwise, it is available for immediate sale, and its sale must be highly probable. So these are the two basic conditions. If you are able to fulfill, then from that day, asset can be classified as non-current asset held for sale. an entity committed to a sale plan involving the loss of control of a subsidiary shall classify the assets and liabilities of that subsidiary as held for sale when the above criteria is satisfied, even if non-controlling interest is retained. So what does it mean? I have a subsidiary. I am holding, suppose, say 75% of the shares. Now I want to bring it down to maybe 30%. So I am disposing of that 45% shares. So because of that, I am going to lose my control, but ultimately I will be retaining some part of it, right? Because I am not disposing of full 75%. But here the scenario, if you are losing the control of the subsidiary, then that subsidiary itself will be covered under Ind AS 105. It will be treated as if it is to be held for sale. So these principles we will see, because this will apply only at the consolidation level, not at the individual level of the subsidiary. Okay, so separate financial statement, there won't be any impact in the subsidiary is concerned. But when a parent will prepare that consolidated financial statement, in that case, measurement as well as classification will be as per 105. That is what you have to keep in mind. That is what they are saying. But important is that there should be loss of control. But if I am not losing the control, then again you are not coming here to 10. That means that suppose I am holding 75% and I am disposing only say 5%. So still I am holding 70%. So in that case, even though I have disposed of 5% of my holding, I am not losing the control of that subsidiary, right? So those kind of transactions under Ind AS 110 are treated as transaction between the shareholders or members. So it does not have any impact on your P&L or anything. Nothing will change. Okay, it is internal through SOCI only, it is to be routed. So 105 will not apply where there is no loss of control of subsidiary. Only if there is a loss of control, then 105 comes into play. This is what you should keep in mind. This is very, very relevant. Okay, next. Now, having seen that, we have to fulfill two conditions. One is it should be available for immediate sale in its present condition. And second is that sale should be highly probable. So now what does we mean by it should be available in its present condition? Let us take two examples for that. Suppose in first example, so an entity is committed to a plan to sell its headquarters building, suppose, and has initiated actions to locate a buyer. The entity intends to transfer the building to a buyer after it vacates the building. The time necessary to vacate the building, suppose, is usual, right? So in this case, we can say that yes, as soon as the buyer is located, entity will hand over the possession of the headquarters. So in this case, we say that yes, in the present location and condition, that asset, that headquarters, is available for immediate sale. So this criteria is fulfilled. But say, suppose we twist this example to some extent. Let us see this scenario again. In this case, the entity says that okay, I will continue using building until construction of a new headquarters building is completed. So here the entity is saying what? That yes, I will continue to occupy this even though I have a firm commitment, agreement कर दिया buyer के साथ, but उसके साथ condition डाला कि भाई मेरा नया building बन रहा है, तो the day when my new constructed building is ready, I will shift to that building और उसके बाद मैं आपको hand over करूँगा. In this case, it is conditional. So even though firm commitment is there, agreement is there, but there is a condition. So वो condition जब तक fulfill नहीं होता है, उस दिन तक you can't say that I am able to fulfill that first criteria available for immediate sale. So in this case, first condition is not fulfilled. So I cannot go to 105. उसको मैं अपने बुक में available for sale asset नहीं बता सकता, because I am not able to fulfill that criteria. Now, second criteria is highly probable. That will be satisfied if the appropriate level of management must be committed to a plan to sell. जैसा कि suppose it is a board of directors, so board of directors has suppose approved that plan कि okay, we want to dispose of this headquarters suppose, or we want to dispose of that one particular unit, manufacturing plant suppose we want to dispose of. So board has actually approved that plan and said that okay, इसके लिए they may have given the allotted the work to a committee or maybe to a particular executive directors. Okay, yeah, you are responsible. Now take action. We want to see that within next six to 1 year, this sale should be completed. Suppose those everything and roadmap also is given. Okay, what should be the price? What are the strategies which will be required to actually put in action all these plans to sell, dispose of the asset? Who are the marketing strategy? क्या करेंगे? कौन किसको broker को ढूंढेंगे? क्या करेंगे? Everything is actually detailed plan in the board meeting, and board has approved that plan and they have given the accent. Okay, go ahead. And even roughly price is also indicated. Okay, this is the price at which you can dispose of, and all that powers are given, so that ultimately within 1 year it should be completed. So this we call it as a one of the condition to fulfill the criteria of highly probable. Second is an active program to locate a buyer and complete the plan must have been initiated, must be actively marketed for sale at a price that is reasonable in relation to its current fair value, and the sale should be expected to qualify for recognition as a completed sale within 1 year from the date of classification, and actions required to complete the sale should indicate that it is unlikely that significant changes to the plan will be made or that the plan will be withdrawn. So management should not be able to withdraw that plan. क्या नक्की किया था? It should not be intent, right? Because intent में तो they can withdraw also. Here the standard is very clear that once it is decided, management should not be able to take it back. Board उसको वापस नहीं लेना चाहिए कि अभी बंद कर दो, नहीं करना है, right? That is the time. If you are able to कि ये सब आपने conditions चालू कर दिया है fulfill करने का, then from that day onwards you are able to classify it as a non-current assets held for sale or disposable group. Till that time it cannot be classified that way. That is what the standard is saying. And they are saying that from the date when it is classified as held for sale, right? Because now you are saying कि आज के दिन के बाद ये asset को मैं बेचने की तैयारी में हूँ, right? As on date जैसा भी दिखता है in the present condition I am going to sell it. So आपने classify कर दिया, उसके 1 साल के अंदर वो जो ऊपर जितने भी plans हमने देखे action plans, that has to be implemented, and it is to be seen that within that 1 year from the date of classification actual sale complete हो जाना चाहिए, उसका registration जो भी चाहिए वो भी हो जाना चाहिए. मैं भी खाली बाद में खाली वो थोड़ा पैसा आने का बाकी है, that is fine, but in मेरे books में I should be able to recognize a sale in my P&L as a sale of that item. उसका sale का मुझे entry आना चाहिए book में. That is what the standard is saying. Its sale should be completed within 1 year. This is very, very important. And standard permits that something happens once you have entered into a firm commitment agreement हो गया है और बाद में कुछ ऐसा unknown चीज आया जो आपके कंट्रोल में नहीं था and you are not expected to know those things. If such things are happening, then standard permits in those rare cases that 1 साल का जो पीरियड है उसको थोड़ा extend किया जा सकता है, but it is also subject to very strict conditions which has to be followed. That is covered under para 9 of the standard. So that we will be covering. But once you are able to satisfy वो मुझे पहले से मालूम नहीं था ये चीज, बाद में वो आया है, nobody was knowing, then and only then, and plus मालूम पड़ा तो अभी उसको आप remediate कैसे करोगे? How you are going to rectify those things? So उसका भी आपके पास plan भी होना चाहिए, and you must have started acting on that plan. Then it can be said yes, you are confident that this will be done, this will be rectified, that whatever condition has come up after the firm commitment, you will be able to rectify those things so that asset sale can happen. So then and only then that extra period you will get. Otherwise, you have to complete within 1 year only, right? So these are the very very important thing which you need to keep in mind. I think बस ये 2-3 चीज ही है standard में. Otherwise, it is very simple. Okay. So next. Now suppose, as Dev said, you are acquiring certain asset. जैसे आपने कुछ दूसरा कोई सब्सिडियरी खरीद ली और उसमें एक आध यूनिट ऐसा है कि जो आपको नहीं चाहिए, बट यू परचेज द सब्सिडियरी और एक्वायर दैट बिजनेस because you are interested into some particular plant location or maybe particular plant which is producing some items, but that entity may have certain other plant also which you are not interested only, right? So those are the areas where the standard says कि लेते वक्त ही आपको मालूम था कि ये मैं immediately बेचने वाला हूँ. Okay, so when an entity acquires a non-current asset or a group exclusive with a view to its subsequent disposal, it shall classify the non-current asset as held for sale at the acquisition date only if, right? क्योंकि इधर तो मैं बोलता हूँ कि मुझे तो पहले से मालूम है कि मुझे बेचना है, इसलिए लेते वक्त ही मुझे मालूम था कि I have to dispose, but मालूम होने से you can't classify it as a non-current asset held for sale. Subject to this condition. What is that condition? If you are able to fulfill that condition, then on the date of acquisition you can classify. That condition is that 1 year requirement is met. जो ऊपर हमने देखा ये highly probable कि 1 साल के अंदर वो कर सकेगा. जो भी conditions ऊपर हमने पढ़े थे, same thing will apply here. So you should be able to satisfy that yes, based on whatever these are my plans, and based on that I am very clear कि 1 साल में मैं बेच सकता हूँ. And it is highly probable that any other criteria that are not met at the date will be met within a short period following the acquisition. वो बोलते हैं कि आपका जो highly probable वाला जो एरिया है, that you are able to satisfy, right? But as on day one, there can be certain areas कि भाई NOC चाहिए because it's a new asset which you have acquired, right? So उसका registration होना चाहिए, आपके नाम पे होना चाहिए. तो वो जो छोटी मोटी formalities है ताकि वो asset बन सकता है for immediately available for sale, वो formality आप अगर कहते हो कि मैं 3 महीने के अंदर I will be able to fulfill that formality, तो आपको वो condition fulfill करने तक रात दोपहर की जरूरत नहीं है. You will be able to classify as on the day when you acquire that entity, and उसी दिन आप उसको classify कर सकोगे. So this is where some relaxation is given, provided you are confident that within 3 months you will be in a position to fulfill that condition, so that आपका asset available for immediate sale का condition fulfill कर सके. Plus 1 साल के अंदर you should be able to fulfill that highly probable वाला condition. Then आपको 3 महीने का यहाँ पे एक विंडो दिया गया है. कहाँ पे? जब आपने एसेट कोई खरीदा है एक्सक्लूसिवली विद अ व्यू टू रीसेल, देन ओनली, राइट? अगर आपके पास पहले से वो एसेट है, देन वो 3 महीने का विंडो आपको नहीं दिया गया है. दिस इज हाउ यू हैव टू डू इट. If the criteria for classification as held for sale are met after the reporting period, means समझो कि ये जो प्लान बना वो after the reporting period बनता है मेरा, and I am able to meet those 2 criteria after the reporting period, suppose in the month of April, suppose, then standard says कि आप मार्च में उसको नहीं दिखा सकते हो कि assets are held for sale, because on that reporting that वो event नहीं हुआ था, उसके बाद ही you are able to fulfill those conditions. So only in the next year you will be able to classify that asset or a group of asset as a held for sale, and not in the reporting period जो उसके पहले था. 31 मार्च को आप नहीं करोगे, नेक्स्ट ईयर में करोगे. And second thing, if after the reporting period but before the financial statements are approved by the board for issue, वो दोनों के बीच में होता है, then the standard says कि you have to disclose कि this event has happened after the reporting period, but this event is very important. That's why disclosure is required. So you will be able to disclose that, but you will not be able to take it into your financial statement in the last year. This is also logical, I think. Correct? Next. As we said, held for sale also applies to held for distribution to owners. So same thing. यहाँ पे भी आपको वो criteria सब fulfill करना पड़ेगा. Then only from that day you can say that I can classify it as a non-current asset held for distribution to owners. Okay, same thing you have to apply here. Next. Now once we have seen what are the criteria on which I will be able to classify and from which date I will be able to classify that asset or a group of asset as held for sale in my financials, because the day it becomes held for sale, classification now will what happen, पहले non-current था, right? Because it is held for sale, it becomes current. That's why वो पूरा change हो जाता है. तो इसलिए important है कि you fulfill those two conditions. Once you have fulfilled, then comes measurement part. So classification का हमने condition fulfill कर दिया है. So now we want to see उसको भी measure कैसा करना है. There the standard is very clear. An entity shall measure a non-current asset classified as held for sale at the lower of its carrying amount and fair value less cost to sell. So whichever is lower में आपको जाना है, because now it is held for sale. और जहां पे डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का पॉइंट आएगा तो वहां पे क्या आएगा, एट लोअर ऑफ कैरिंग अमाउंट एंड फेयर वैल्यू लेस कॉस्ट टू डिस्ट्रीब्यूट. सेल की जगह डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन आ गया, राइट? क्योंकि यहाँ पे आप अभी डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करना चाहते हो एसेट को. एंड व्हाट इज कॉस्ट टू डिस्ट्रीब्यूट आर द इंक्रीमेंटल कॉस्ट डायरेक्टली attributable to distribution excluding finance cost and income tax. This always has to be excluded anyway. Immediately before the initial classification of the asset or disposal group as held for sale, the carrying amount of the assets or all the assets and liabilities in the group shall be measured in accordance with applicable Ind AS. तो यहाँ पे जैसे हमने पहले देखा था कि what they have said, जो उन्होंने 5 आइटम्स A, B, C, D, E जो assets लिखे थे, there they said के measurement के लिए you will go to that particular standards, like deferred tax का हमने देखा था, तो Ind AS 12 में जाना है, right? फिर एम्प्लॉय बेनिफिट, तो उन्होंने बोला यू गो टू इंड एस 19. सेम वे दे हैव लिस्टेड 5 असेट्स. उसको छोड़ के जितने भी असेट्स एंड लायबिलिटीज आर देयर व्हिच फॉर्म्स पार्ट ऑफ माय डिस्पोजल ग्रुप, स्टैंडर्ड क्या बोलता है कि एज ऑन द डेट ऑफ क्लासिफिकेशन एज हेल्ड फॉर सेल, पहले आप उस दिन तक का उनको रीमेजर करो बाय अप्लाइंग दैट एप्लीकेबल स्टैंडर्ड. सपोज इंड एस 2 इज एप्लीकेबल टू माय इन्वेंटरी, सो मैं and suppose I am able to fulfill अभी 30th September is the date when I am able to fulfill those 2 criteria so that I can classify that group as a held for sale. तो अपने को 30th September का बैलेंस शीट बनाना पड़ेगा, standard is saying that, and apply remeasurement requirements of each individual standard. जैसे मैंने एग्जांपल दिया Ind AS 2 for inventory, तो इन्वेंटरी को 30th September के दिन में आप देखो कॉस्ट और NRV whichever is lower, so because of that something has to be done, you do it. NPA जो रहेगा अपना नॉन करंट एसेट PPE, तो उसके ऊपर आप डेप्रिसिएशन अप टू सितंबर लो, इम्पेयरमेंट टेस्टिंग करो, and then you come to that carrying value of that asset. Same way you apply whatever Ind AS is applicable to that particular assets and liability. First उसको अप्लाई कीजिए, उसके मुताबिक बैलेंस शीट ड्रॉ कीजिए as on 30th September on the date when you are able to fulfill that classification criteria, और फिर आप ए स्टैंडर्ड में आइए. दैट इज व्हाट कहते हैं. उसके पहले आप बैलेंस शीट बनाइए यूजिंग अदर स्टैंडर्ड्स, राइट? सो इमीडिएटली बिफोर द इनिशियल क्लासिफिकेशन ऑफ द एसेट as held for sale, the carrying amount of the assets or all the liabilities and assets in the group shall be measured in accordance with applicable Ind AS. This is how you have to read this, right? Next. एंड सपोज बीच में फिर वापस एक इवेंट होता है, जैसे सब रिपोर्टिंग पीरियड आ जाता है, तो दे कॉल इट एज ऑन सब्सिक्वेंट रीमेजरमेंट ऑफ अ डिस्पोजल ग्रुप द कैरिंग अमाउंट ऑफ एनी एसेट्स और लायबिलिटीज दैट आर नॉट विद इन द स्कोप ऑफ द मेजरमेंट रिक्वायरमेंट्स ऑफ दिस इंडेक्स, बट जैसे अगेन इन्वेंटरी और सब जो मैंने बोला, बट आर इंक्लूडेड इन द डिस्पोजेबल ग्रुप shall be remeasured in accordance with applicable index before the fair value less cost to sell of the disposal group is remeasured. So बीच में suppose 31st March आ गया, so then the standard says again on 31st March you prepare a balance sheet using all that criteria of other indices, बाकी सब asset liability को आप remeasure कर दो and then compare it with fair value less cost to sell of disposal and apply करो कि whichever is lower वाला criteria to remeasure that assets. This is how it is to be done. Next, measurement. Now suppose having classified, because at that time you fulfill all the conditions, so आपने उसको नॉन करंट एज हेल्ड फॉर सेल में क्लासिफाई कर दिया एंड मेजरमेंट भी आपने उसके मुताबिक कर दिया, राइट, विच एवर इज लोअर वाला कैरिंग अमाउंट और फेयर वैल्यू लेस कॉस्ट टू सेल विच एवर इज लोअर पे आपने सब कर दिया, एंड सब्सिक्वेंटली यू आर नॉट एबल टू कंप्लीट दैट सेल विद इन दैट टाइम परमिटेड बाय द स्टैंडर्ड, या फिर आपने उसको अबेंडन कर दिया कि भाई वो प्लान था, अभी मुझे वॉट एवर रीजंस यू आर नॉट एबल टू कंटिन्यू इट, शायद बिकॉज ऑफ क्रैश इन द मार्केट, बहुत सारा मार्केट वैल्यू ऑफ दैट एसेट डाउन हो गया, सो देन यू फील दैट इट इज नॉट मेकिंग सेंस, सो लेट अस वेट सो दैट यू आर नॉट एबल टू कंटिन्यू टू फुलफिल दैट क्राइटेरिया, राइट. तो इसका मतलब स्टैंडर्ड बोलता है कि ये क्लासिफिकेशन सीज हो जाएगा, you can't continue with that classification anymore, so आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा, revert back to the original one. तो उसके लिए standard is saying how you are going to do that. So if an entity has classified an asset as held for sale but the criteria for such classification are no longer met subsequently, the entity shall cease to classify the asset as held for sale. तो अभी क्या करेंगे, the entity shall measure a non-current asset that ceases to be classified as held for sale at the lower of, means as on the date that decision आया कि भाई दिन से अभी I can't continue as that classification, I will have to change, right. तो उस दिन पे you will have to measure and then find out whichever is the lower amount. So क्या करना है आपको, इट्स कैरिंग अमाउंट बिफोर द एसेट वाज क्लासिफाइड, जो ओरिजिनली जो आप जिस दिन पे आप ओरिजिनली आपने क्लासिफाई किया कि नाउ इट इज आई एम एबल टू फुलफिल द कंडीशंस, सो अभी मेरा ये हेल्ड फॉर सेल क्लासिफिकेशन कर रहा हूं, तो आपने उसको मेजर किया रहेगा, राइट, फिर आपने उसके ऊपर डेप्रिसिएशन बंद कर दिया रहेगा. तो स्टैंडर्ड बोलता है कि जैसे अपने एग्जांपल में 30th सितंबर वाज दैट डेट, तो 30th सितंबर में आप जाओ, उस वक्त जो कैरिंग वैल्यू था एसेट्स एंड लायबिलिटीज का, उसको आप आगे बढ़ाओ एज इफ कभी भी हेल्ड फॉर सेल किया ही नहीं था आपने, एंड देन अराइव एट द करंट डेट व्हेन एक्चुअली यू हैव स्टॉप्ड फुलफिलिंग दैट क्राइटेरिया, सो आप सीज कर रहे हो एंड अगेन इट विल बी कंसीडर्ड एज अ नॉर्मल एसेट और अ लायबिलिटी. सो वो दिन के बीच में का जो भी डेप्रिसिएशन इम्पेयरमेंट जो भी होना है, all those things you will apply to that and arrive at the new carrying amount when you cease to do that condition. Okay, तो उसका आपको नया एक बैलेंस शीट बन जाएगा. then उस दिन का आप रिकवरल अमाउंट फाइंड करो, जिस दिन आपने डिसीजन चेंज कर दिया उस दिन पे जो एसेट्स एंड लायबिलिटीज आपके है बैलेंस शीट में, उसका रिकवर अमाउंट क्या था वो फाइंड करो एंड विच एवर इज लोअर उस पे आप मेजर करो. ओके, दिस इज व्हाट द स्टैंडर्ड इज सेइंग. और इसकी वजह से जो भी डिफरेंसेस आएंगे, गेन और लॉस बिकॉज ऑफ दिस रीमेजरमेंट, ओके, that will be taken to P&L from continuing operation, because from now onwards you are saying it is not held for sale, now I am on normal under continuing operation. So ये जो gain और loss हुआ because of this change in measurements, that will go to your normal P&L loss, not under discontinued operation wala. So it will be treated as a profit or loss from continuing operation, okay, in the period in which the classification criteria are no longer met. This is very, very important. Next, disclosure. An entity shall present and disclose information that enables, ultimately क्या है कि user को मालूम पड़ना चाहिए कि क्या हुआ है, what has happened during that period. So he is able to then identify and evaluate ki what is the financial effect of that discontinued operation and the disposal of the non-current assets on the P&L and the balance sheet. That's why entity is required to disclose single amount in the statement of, means on the face of the statement of profit and loss, comprising the total of post-tax profit or loss of discontinued operation and post-tax gain or loss recognized on the measurement to fair value less cost to sell or on the disposal of assets constituting discontinued. So उसको face पर बताने को बोलता है, okay? And then detailed part you can give it as a part of notes. Analysis of single amount into इसमें से major revenue क्या था, major expenses क्या था, उसके of that discontinued operation, उसके related मेरा tax का impact क्या था, fair value की वजह से जो gain और loss है उसका detail आप दो, उसका tax impact दो, वो आप notes में you give details, but on the face of the P&L only one single line, that profit and loss from discontinued operation or disposal of asset held for sale. This is what they are saying. So face of the profit and loss only one single line. Notes may you can give breakup of that material items of the, which constitute that discontinued operation. This is how it should be disclosed so that users can actually understand how to read this and what has happened. Next. Yeah. Another disclosure I want is the net cash flows attributable to operating, investing and financing activities of discontinued operation. That has also to be disclosed separately. The amount of income from continuing operation and from discontinued operation which are attributable to owners of the parent. So OCI में जब आप distribution करते हो to NCI and the parent, you will give breakup of these two. Okay, how much from the continuing operation, how much from the discontinued operation, और separately आप दिखाओगे वहां पे. Now in the balance sheet, if you see schedule 3 also, it is very clear कि उसको आप अलग से दिखाओगे, आप mix नहीं कर सकते हो. So you will find in schedule 3 there is on the asset side also there you will find that these are the non-current assets classified held for sale and disposal group. And liability में आप जाओगे तो liability में भी you will have a separate line item where it will be said, okay, these are the liabilities towards that disposal of the disposal group. So it is, you cannot offset, you have to show it separately, a separate line item on asset side as well as on the liability side. This is what the standard is saying, so that user will know, okay, यहाँ पे ऐसा हुआ है. Okay. An entity shall present separately any cumulative income or expense recognized in other comprehensive relating to non-current assets classified as held for sale. So yes, separately main क्या है कि उसकी वजह उसके related जो भी आपका impact है वो standard बोलता है कि separately आप disclose करो ताकि users को दिखना चाहिए कि मेरा इसका impact क्या आया है. That is what disclosure should be separate. That is in nutshell. Next. और जैसा हमने देखा था कि अब सपोज मार्च तक कुछ नहीं हुआ था, लेकिन अप्रैल या मई में you are able to fulfill that criteria for disclosure separately as a held for sale, then standard requires what disclosure you have to do, because आप उसको classify तो नहीं करोगे मार्च में because आपका event बाद में हुआ है, but disclosure आपको करना है. तो क्या करना है disclosure? A description of the non-current asset, कौन सा आप बेच रहे हो, a description of the facts and circumstances of the sale or leading to the expected disposal and the expected manner and timing of the disposal. आप उसको लिखोगे कि भाई this is what we are planning to do. If applicable, the reportable segment in which the non-current asset is presented in accordance with Ind AS 108 ऑपरेटिंग सेगमेंट. सो अगर वो आप रिपोर्टेबल सेगमेंट में आता है वो अंडर Ind AS 108, देन विच रिपोर्टेबल सेगमेंट में वो बैठता था जो आप अभी डिस्पोज करने जा रहे हो, सो दैट ऑल्सो यू हैव टू disclose, so that user will be able to identify, they will be able to assess उसका impact आगे जाके क्या होने वाला है, because of this whether that segment was important, not important, why the management is trying to sell off, वो सब investors should be well informed so that they can take their decision independently based on the information available in the financial. This is the whole purpose, right? So logically it is right only. As an investor I should know, correct? Next. Now, as you understand, if you see schedule 3, you will find that what the standard says that continuing operation, then discontinuing operation, then उसका जैसे आपने देखा profit before tax और from continuing operation आया, उसका tax impact आएगा, फिर impact of discontinued operation आएगा, उसका tax effect आएगा, and then we will have OCI. So this is how the standard requires to be presented, right? Next. Now coming to the balance sheet, तो यहाँ पे भी जो Ind AS 1 जो बता रहा, this is that line items which says that minimum items with the balance sheet face of the balance sheet you should cover. So यहाँ पे if you see the next page, next, that item J, no, previous page, item J which is in yellow mark, the total of assets classified as held for sale and assets included in disposal group classified as held for sale in accordance with Ind AS 105, non-current asset held for sale, disposal operation. So this is how it should be there on the face of the balance sheet, asset as well as liability. If you see item number P below, liabilities included in disposable groups classified as held for sale in accordance with Ind AS 105. So both assets as well as liabilities of discontinued operation or asset held for sale has to be separately disclosed as a part of your financial statement on the face of the balance sheet. This is what the standard requires, right? You cannot offset, you cannot merge it with other items. It has to be separately disclosed. That is what is most important. Okay. Now next, here let us now understand a practical example how that measurement will apply. In the case study 1, the fair value less cost to sell of assets included in the disclosure group has been determined to be 3,500. That they have given fair value less cost to sell, right? But prior to the held for sale classification, but after regular impairment testing procedures, the carrying amount of the asset was determined at 7,500. That's why अपने example में 30th September का जो balance sheet बनाया, उसके मुताबिक 7,500 was my total of those assets, right? The following table illustrates the situation prior to and after recognition of Ind AS 105 impairment loss. So अपना standard क्या बोलता है कि first you prepare the balance sheet as on the date when you are able to satisfy those conditions to be classified as held for sale. You prepare that balance sheet, then that becomes your carrying amount. Compare it with fair value less cost of that group, whichever is lower. This is how we value, right, for the purpose of classification. So in this case, वो जो as on the date वाला balance sheet था, before applying this fair lower वाला जो condition है, they have said that these are the assets and totally 7,500. That is the carrying value. Now we have to measure for the purpose of classification as per Ind AS 105. There it says that it should be lower of carrying amount or fair value less cost to sell. They have given fair value less cost to sell of this item as 3,500. Now, how to value? Now, as you know, Ind AS 105 measurement applies to non-current assets, right? अदर एसेट्स के लिए तो बोला है कि आप वो पर्टिकुलर स्टैंडर्ड में जाओ, वहां पे जो भी है क्राइटेरिया वो अप्लाई करो एंड दैट बिकम्स द वैल्यू एज फार एज द ग्रुप इज कंसर्न. तो यहाँ पे अदर देन नॉन करंट एसेट्स इफ यू सी वी हैव टू आइटम्स, इन्वेंटरी एंड ट्रेड रिसीवेबल्स. तो उसका तो वैल्यू उन्होंने बोला कि इट इज सेम, सो वी कांट चेंज दैट, राइट. सो पहले तो आप वो दोनों को ले लीजिए. तो इन्वेंट अगर आप नेक्स्ट पेज पे जाओगे सॉल्यूशन में, राइट, नाउ गो टू द सॉल्यूशन. नेक्स्ट पेज. make it make it
Yes, sir. It's a solution.
next page.
Rajesh sir, your voice is not audible, Rajesh sir.
Hello.
Yeah. There was
Yes.
some connection problem was there.
Okay.
Yeah. So now I'm audible, right?
Yes, sir. Audible.
Okay. Fine. So in this case, you can say that
Sir,
7,000.
from the beginning. The voice is lost from there.
Now it is okay.
Case study, sir.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the difference is 7,500 and 3,500, correct? So difference is 4,000. So this 4,000 has to be, so we have to bring out that 4,000, we have to write it off by applying 105 principles. And we know that 105 principles apply to non-current assets. Current assets and liability के लिए we have to go to that particular standard, maybe Ind AS-1 अपना जो 2 था, whatever. So in this case, inventory and trade receivables, they have given that there is no change. So that we will continue at that 1,500 and 1,500. So we got 3,000. अपने को लाना है 3,500, right? So और 500 रुपया we have to allocate to other assets. बाकी का जो difference है we have to write it off. That overall 4,000 has to be written off. So that we have to allocate to non-current assets which are available in that group. So we can say that we have goodwill, we have other intangible assets and PPE. उनका value उन्होंने दिया है 1,500, 1,000 and 2,000. So here how to allocate that impairment? उसके लिए we have to go to Ind AS 36 और वहाँ पे they have said that if in such scenario सबसे पहले आपको goodwill को write off करना है. Okay, so first पूरे का पूरा goodwill को आप impair कर दीजिए. So out of that 4,000, we will first remove that 1,500 from the goodwill. तो goodwill अभी 0 हो गया, right? तो अभी बाकी का जो बचा उसको now they said that suppose out of that 4,000, 1,500 is gone, right? So now 2,500 बचा. So 2,500 we have to allocate in the ratio of this other balance two assets which are left. That is 1,000 and 2,000. तो ratio में आप देखोगे तो अभी कितना बचा है? that 1,000 में से आप वो रेशियो में निकालोगे तो that 833 या जो भी है वो निकल जाएगा. तो 167 बचा. And that PPE now जो 2,000 था, now it is only 333 left because you have to return off that 2,500 over these two assets. तो अभी खाली 500 रुपए का asset बचा है. So now this is how you will get measurement of your the disposable group, which you will show in your balance sheet at 3,500 as a group, disposable group, which will be allocated in this manner. आप डिटेल में आप देखोगे तो then आपको दिखेगा कि इसमें other intangible asset is at 167, PP is at 333, inventory at 1,500, trade receivable at 1,500. Total is 3,500 of that total assets which I have applied lower of carrying value or fair value which have less cost to sell. So that is 3,500. So this is how you will prepare that statement for the purpose of 105. I hope you understood how to apply this standard, right? So take another example. In this case study, they have given that on June 2011, Entity X plans to sell a group of assets and liabilities which is classified as a disposal group. We have seen that disposal group में assets, liabilities सब आता है. On 31st July, the board of directors approves and becomes committed to the plan to sell the manufacturing unit by entering into a firm purchase commitment with entity Y. So 31st July is the date when they had a firm purchase commitment with entity Y. However, since the manufacturing unit is regulated, the approval from the regulator is needed for sale. The approval from the regulator is customary and highly probable to be received by 30th November. And the sale is expected to be completed by 31st March. Entity X follows December year end. The assets and liabilities attributable to these manufacturing units are given as under. So यहाँ पे क्या है कि see within that 1 year there should be a plan. अपने पास दो condition था, right? एक तो it should be available for immediate sale. And second था कि highly probable है कि 1 साल के अंदर उसका complete होना चाहिए. तो उसमें including that regulatory approval if it is customary, so then you can't postpone till that day आप उसके पहले ही जब जिस दिन आपने वो फर्म परचेस कमिटमेंट कर दिया एग्रीमेंट, that can be the date when you can classify it under 105, right? So they have given the breakup. तो उन्होंने दिया है कि दिसंबर कैरिंग वैल्यू उसका लास्ट ईयर का है, बिकॉज दे आर फॉलोइंग दिसंबर एज द ईयर एंड। तो 31 दिसंबर 2010 का उन्होंने दिया है, एंड दे हैव गिवन 31/7/2011 का, बिकॉज दैट इज विल बी आवर डेट फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ क्लासिफिकेशन, राइट? तो बिफोर वी क्लासिफाइड, दिस इज द ब्रेकअप दे हैव गिवन कि बैलेंस शीट एज ऑन 31/7 क्या क्या पोजीशन था। सो दैट कम्स टू एक्चुअली 2600, राइट? सो नाउ लेट अस सी और क्या दिया है उन्होंने। नेक्स्ट, the fair value of the manufacturing unit as on 31st December was 2000, and as on 31st July, means जब हम इसको क्लासिफाई कर रहे हैं, they have given fair value less cost to sell is 1850, cost to sell is 100 they have given, right? So 1850 minus 100 हम करेंगे, so we will have 1750, and they are saying that as on 31st December that is not yet, that sale is not completed, right? Because मार्च तक का उनके पास टाइम है, and so उन्होंने fair value on December 31st is lower than carrying value of disposable group उन्होंने बताया है। Okay, so now what they are asking us to do, assess whether the manufacturing unit can be classified as held for sale and reasons thereof. If yes, then at which date? So first we have to see that whether this unit, whether they are able to fulfill those conditions or not, and if yes, then which is the date when they can classify. नवंबर तक वेट करना पड़ेगा या they can do it on July, right? This is what they are asking us to do, and once date आपको मालूम पड़ गया, then you please apply 105 का measurement principle and measure the manufacturing unit as on that date based on classification as held for sale, and also tell us what will happen as on 31st December 2011 जब आपको मालूम है कि उस वक्त that complete नहीं हुआ था सेल, और उन्होंने ये भी बताया कि as on 31st December that fair value less cost to is lower than the carrying value of the disposable group, तो उसको आप कैसे वैल्यू करेंगे? These are the answers. So based on the reasons, if you see, management is able to fulfill both the criteria, right? So अभी और डेट क्या है? That is 31st July, because 31st July को is the date when firm purchase commitment भी हो गया था उनके साथ, और जो regulatory requirement था that is also customary, so that they are definitely sure that within 3 months हो जाएगा. So 31st July should be our date we are able to fulfill based on the reasons I have listed there. आप उसको पढ़ सकते हो बाद में why I am saying that 31st July is the date. Now having decided, now we have to come to how we measure it as per 105. तो उसमें भी मैंने स्टेप्स दिया है कि इमीडिएटली बिफोर क्लासिफिकेशन आप करते हो तो क्या करते हो। तो वहां पे हमने देखा है कि उस दिन का बैलेंस शीट बनाओ और उसमें फाइंड करो कि व्हाट इज द वैल्यू। तो जहाँ पे आप देखेंगे तो उसमें 2600 इज द वैल्यू दे हैव गिवन इन द बैलेंस शीट व्हिच वी हैव सीन, राइट? नाउ द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द कैरिंग वैल्यू as on December 2010 and July 2011 is accounted for as per the relevant Ind AS. जैसे Ind AS-2 है, इन्वेंटरी है, Ind AS 109 for debtors, creditors and loans, तो उसमें जो भी आपको इम्पेयरमेंट करना है वो एज पर नॉर्मल स्टैंडर्ड आप करोगे। तो देन यू कम अराइव एट 2600 एज द वैल्यू ऑफ द ग्रुप। उसके बाद दे विल कंपेयर कैरिंग वैल्यू व्हिच नाउ इज 2600 विद द फेयर वैल्यू लेस कॉस्ट टू सेल। हमने देखा है कि अपना फेयर वैल्यू लेस कॉस्ट टू सेल इज 1750, राइट, एज ऑन 31st जुलाई। तो हमने को विच एवर इज लोअर में लाना है। तो ये दोनों का डिफरेंस है, दैट हैज टू बी इम्पेयर्ड, दैट इम्पेयरमेंट विल बी एज पर 105। तो उसमें वी हैव सीन दैट इम्पेयरमेंट हैज टू बी अप्लाइड टू नॉन करंट एसेट्स। तो इन दिस केस वी हैव गुडविल, प्लांट एंड मशीनरी एंड बिल्डिंग, दिस आर द 3 आइटम्स व्हिच आर एक्चुअली नॉन करंट एसेट, राइट? तो अभी जो difference between that 2600 and 1750 has to be that 850 जो आ रहा है अपना, that we have to allocate to that 3 items which are non-current. So we have seen that as per Ind AS 36 सबसे पहले goodwill will be affected, right? तो 850 में से 500 तो आप उधर ही पहले उड़ा दो, तो 500 वहां पे चला गया. अभी जो 350 बचा उसको ये जो रेशियो है 900 प्लस 1850 के रेशियो में आप उसको डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करो. तो एज पर दिस इट कम्स टू 115 and 235. तो 850 आपका रिड्यूस हो इम्पेयर हो गया, एंड देन यू विल गेट अ न्यू कैरिंग वैल्यू एज पर Ind AS 105 as on the date of classification, that is 31st July. उसके मुताबिक now you are having that group of assets and liabilities as 1750, right? So this is how we do, correct? now आगे बढ़ेंगे कि ईयर एंड में क्या करना है, बिकॉज अभी ईयर एंड आ गया 31st दिसंबर, तब तक बिका नहीं है क्योंकि मार्च तक they said के सेल विल बी कंप्लीटेड. सो अगेन वी हैव टू यूज द सेम प्रिंसिपल कि उस दिन जाओ 31st दिसंबर का क्या अदर स्टैंडर्ड्स है लाइक इन्वेंटरी एंड उसके मुताबिक क्या मेजरमेंट आया वो निकालो, इसका वही रहेगा वैल्यू, बट देन कंपेयर इट विद फेयर वैल्यू लेस कॉस्ट टू सेल एज ऑन 31st दिसंबर. उसमें जो डिफरेंस आएगा दैट विल बी न्यू इम्पेयरमेंट व्हिच यू विल हैव टू अप्लाई अगेन टू नॉन करंट एसेट्स. सेम प्रिंसिपल जो यहाँ पे हमने यूज किया था 850 को करने के लिए, राइट? सो दैट वे आपका फिर नया बैलेंस शीट बनेगा एज ऑन 31st दिसंबर बेस्ड ऑन 105 स्टैंडर्ड, एंड यू गो अहेड विद दैट फॉर अप टू द डेट ऑफ सेल एक्चुअल सेल. और जब एक्चुअल सेल होगा तब जो भी प्लस एंड माइनस प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस होएगा दैट विल बी टेकन टू योर P&L अकाउंट. आई थिंक दिस इज हाउ दिस हैज टू बी डेल्ट विद, राइट? So hope I have covered 2 types of examples. यहाँ पे subsequent में भी कैसे करते हैं वो भी कवर हो गया. How to identify that which is the debt I should take वो भी हमने कवर कर दिया. Goodwill को कैसे allocate करना है पहले, बाकी का नॉन करंट एसेट पे how we should proportionately distribute, that also we have covered. Other assets which are not under 105 उसका हम remeasurement कैसे करेंगे by using 109 standard or Ind AS 2 standard, उसको कैसे करेंगे that also we have seen. And then again as a group how will apply that acquiring value और fair value less cost to sell whichever is lower as a group पे apply कैसे करेंगे वो भी हमने देखा दूसरे example में. So I think if you again go through it, the concepts will be very clear as far as what I feel, right? And these are the differences which I have listed that you can read. It is what just anytime you can read afterwards, because differences I have listed between Ind AS and IFRS and Ind AS and existing AS24. Now few of the MCQs I have given which again will actually clear your doubts about the concepts of this standard. So what I will do is I will give you the answers here. So then accordingly then you can apply that. For first one it is answer is D actually. Assets forming part of the disposal group but not within the scope of this standard are remeasured and the carrying value of disposal group as a whole is tested for impairment. Because now actually we have applied this now for our case studies. So you just go through it and you will be able to get what I'm saying, right? So this will make your concepts very much clear. That's how I have planned these MCQs. Next one, entity as a December year end. It classified one of its manufacturing plant as held for sale on 30th September. On June 2012, there is a change to the plant, and the plant no longer meets the held for sale criteria. The standard requires such a plant to be measured at the lower of carrying value and is recovered amount as on 30th June 2012. The carrying amount in this case is what? Its carrying amount before the classification as held for sale adjusted for subsequent. हमने देखा था कि अगर आपका जिस दिन पे प्लान चेंज हुआ तो आप ओरिजिनल डेट जब आपने पहली बार क्लासिफाई किया था उस दिन से चेंज ऑफ प्लान हुआ वो डेट तक का आप डेप्रिसिएशन इम्पेयरमेंट जो भी हुआ है वो आप उसके ऊपर लगाओगे और आपको नया कैरिंग वैल्यू आ जाएगा. तो दिस इज आंसर इज सी एक्चुअली इन दिस केस, राइट? थर्ड वन, what not considered for classifying a disposable group. C part, because यहाँ पे हमको ये नहीं देखना है कि disposable group profitable है कि नहीं. You are just saying that yes, I want to dispose of this, and that's why if I fulfill the condition, I will treat it as a held for sale. तो यहाँ पे हमने देखा है कि जो condition है वो immediate sale होना चाहिए, highly probable होना चाहिए, और regulatory approval अगर चाहिएगा तो that has to be taken. I think these are the 3 items. So that C part is actually not a condition, right? So disposal group should be profitable. वो जरूरी नहीं है, loss making भी हो सकता है. So answer is C. In the 4th case, answer is D. Because यहाँ पे क्या हुआ है कि they are not able to fulfill the condition कि मेरा आज के दिन पे sell is highly probable वाला जो condition है, they are not able to fulfill that. That's why D is the answer. Next, 5th में which of the following is not true? तो यहाँ पे भी answer is D actually. Because see, standard says के जो मुझे comparative figures देना है, balance sheet में I have not to give comparative भी मुझे discontinue नहीं दिखाना है और held for sale दिखाना है, only current year का दिखाना है. Profit and loss and cash flow में I have to show both the types, current year और previous year में क्या था. But as far as my balance sheet is concerned, it's a factual thing. So अगर मेरा last year में it was a continuing operation, it was not an asset held for sale, तो मैं last year में जाके उसको reclassify नहीं करूंगा, वो वैसे था वैसा ही रहेगा. Current year में अगर I have taken as a held for sale, तो my classification and presentation in the current year in the balance sheet only will be as per 105. I will not change my comparative figure. So उसके सामने आपको 0 मिलेगा. Got it? So this is how it has to be looked at. But in P&L they want that discontinued operation आपको current year और previous year दोनों को change करना है, so that it becomes comparable as far as the profit and loss impact is concerned. But balance sheet में they are saying it is a position as on date. So अगर last year में as on date वो position नहीं था, तो you will not reclassify it as a disposable group. It will remain as a continuing operation. Current year के balance sheet में this is based on the fact it has become a non-current asset held for sale, so you classify accordingly. This is what the answer is. So para 40 is the answer for the standard actually. So D. 6th one, it is C. 7th one, this 7th one has come from Appendix A, Ind AS-10. So there you will get this. So based on that, यहाँ पे क्या होता है कि dividend, the day you have approved that dividend to be paid as by the distribution of asset, that fair value as on that date of the asset क्या था जब आपने dividend approve किया, वो freeze हो जाएगा. So यहाँ पे अपने केस में actually उन्होंने approve किया है November 30th को. So November 30th को they have given fair value of the asset which is to be distributed as a dividend, उसका value था 120, and it is distributed on 30th December, right? So 30th December का carrying value of the asset देखने का, because that is what in the books you will actually dispose of, right? So carrying value of the asset is 90 rupees. That is what the asset will go out on 30th December. So दोनों का जो difference है will go to my P&L account. Okay, so 120 minus 90, so 30 is my answer in this case, which will go to my P&L as on 30th December. Okay, 8th में my answer is A. 9th, my answer is D, because it is in the case of subsidiary. जो मैं लेते वक्त ही मुझे मालूम है कि I am going to sell it immediately. That is the purpose. So there the standard permits you that 3 months का leave है, right? So the subsidiary or asset is available for immediate resale, and the sale of the subsidiary asset is considered highly probable. If you are able to fulfill these two conditions, then that 3 months का period is allowed. So वहाँ पे थोड़ा lenient है standard. So both the conditions has to be met. That's why the answer is D. 10th. They are saying that net cash flows attributable to operating, investing and financing activities of the discontinued operation must be presented in the notes to accounts or in the financial statement, or it's an option that either it can be in the notes or in the financial statement. Right? The answer is C. Para 33, C will give you this answer. It can be in the notes or it can be in the financial statement itself. Wherever you feel, both options are available. Okay. So this ends our presentation as far as Ind AS 105 is concerned. Now we go to the next standard, which is borrowing cost. Here AS-16 is the standard under GAAP, I GAAP. Basically there are not much difference, except one or two differences are there. Otherwise both the principles are same, because AS-16 was based on IAS 23 when it was revised. So we had applied the standard once it was revised under IAS 23. So that's why you will find that under Ind AS 23 and AS 16 we don't have much difference. We will see it if there are any differences or not. Otherwise it is same, principles are same. Okay, only one difference we will see, which is very, very important, but that is based on the ESC opinions which are come under AS 16. ESC opinion you must be knowing that are expert advisory committee which gives the opinion based on the queries raised by the industry. Okay, so they had taken some stand, and there are high court decisions where also they have taken some stand which actually are not in line of Ind AS 23. So that is the main difference. Otherwise, so we will see what is the difference. So now core principle in Ind AS 23, borrowing costs that are directly attributable to the acquisition, construction or production of a qualifying asset form part of the cost of that asset. If you are not fulfilling that condition, then all other borrowing costs will be recognized as expense. It cannot be capitalized. So for the capitalization, you have to fulfill that condition, that borrowing costs that are directly attributable to the acquisition, construction or production of the asset, and that should be qualifying asset, then you can add those borrowing costs. Otherwise it has to be expensed out. This is the base crux. Applicability: this will not apply to imputed cost of equity. There should be actual cost incurred. So आप dividend देते हो equity पे, so that is not to be covered, because it is you are giving to on equity, not on the liability or loans. So this is not cost. Borrowing cost नहीं गिना जाता है उसको. It is not an expense, right? It is returns to the shareholders. But अगर as per Ind AS 32, if suppose it is a redeemable preferences, that we will be covered under issues which I am going to cover. Then possibility that because redeemable preferences is not an equity, it's a liability as per Ind AS, then dividend which are actually fixed in the nature and not discretionary, right? Cumulative है, fixed dividend, a percentage you know, then in those cases, those dividend can be treated as a finance cost and can be part of your addition to qualifying asset if you are able to fulfill those conditions. Otherwise equity के ऊपर आप जो भी देते हो, that is not covered. Standard says that is not a borrowing cost. It will not apply to the borrowing cost directly to the acquisition, construction, or production of a qualifying asset measured at fair value. So Ind AS 41 deals with biological assets. तो उसको परचेस करने के लिए आपने अगर कुछ दिया है, तो then that borrowing cost will not be allowed, because it is always measured at fair value, right? Inventory that are manufactured or otherwise produced in a large quantities on a repetitive basis. So this standard is saying even though those inventories can take a substantial period of time, but standard says that it's a accounting policy choice. I am not directly covering them as part of my applicability. Okay. So, but in certain cases, we have seen that management may, by a accounting policy choice, say that okay, wine बनाने के लिए मुझे इतना time लगता है उसके लिए, so that is my process. It's so that it becomes my qualifying asset. So I should be allowed to add those borrowing cost into my inventory of wine. That is one example, but it's a accounting policy. So one Ind AS 23 says that I will not deal with those things because it is manufactured in large quantities on a repetitive basis. That's why you don't come to me, right? But in certain industries, they do it based on accounting policies. So management will disclose it as an accounting policy choice. Definitions. Next, borrowing costs are interest and other costs that an entity incurs in connection with the borrowing of funds. What is covered under borrowing cost? It is, and now we have to see that how the borrowing cost is defined under 109, right? So interest expenses calculated using the effective interest method as described in Ind AS 109. We have to go to 109 and find out what to determine effective interest rate, what they cover as a part of interest expense, right? So if you see in the borrowing under Ind AS 109, they say for the purpose of borrowing, if I'm paying some commission or processing fees, then actually it goes to reduce my borrowing, because how much I am getting actually, that is net of my expenses to get those funds. So then I will actually debit all of that in my borrowing account, and then I will determine what is the effective interest rate on that net borrowing which I have done, so that my outflow will matches with the actual things. So that is what we define as EIR. So that interest expense जो आया using that EIR method will be qualifying as a borrowing cost for the purpose of Ind AS 23. Plus under 116 you have seen finance charges in respect of lease liabilities. So that also is treated as a expense, interest expense. So that also is permitted for the purpose of qualifying borrowing cost. And exchange differences arising from foreign currency borrowing to the extent that they are regarded as an adjustment to interest cost. So that you know what under AS 16 also this is there, that if I am having a foreign currency borrowing, for that obviously rate of interest will be lower, right? But there is a risk of exchange difference, exchange fluctuations. So they are saying first you calculate what is the borrowing interest which you are paying, right? And how much exchange difference gain or loss actually you have incurred on that. And then suppose you had gone for that local borrowing in INR, then उसका equivalent amount के लिए कितना आपको interest लगता था. Find out that interest cost in the local borrowing और ये जो foreign exchange वाला borrowing में कितना interest आया, और दोनों का जो difference है, to the extent of that difference, you can capitalize that foreign exchange difference का loss as a part of my qualifying asset. This is what the standard is saying. Okay. Next. Yeah. Now definitions. A qualifying asset is an asset that necessarily takes a substantial period of time to get ready for its intended use. So normally substantial period we say that what is more than 12 months, that we say it is a substantial period. That is how it is defined under AS 16, right? Any of the following may be qualifying assets. So they have defined inventories can be, manufacturing plants can be. These are what inventories, maybe not repetitive basis, other inventories. Manufacturing plants, power generation facilities, intangible assets, investment properties. These are the examples of qualifying assets. That is how it is defined. Now they have specifically excluding financial assets and inventories that are manufactured or otherwise produced over a short period of time, because for qualifying asset there should be a substantial period of time involved, then only it gets into qualifying asset. सो शॉर्ट पीरियड वाला नहीं आएगा. Financial assets, because 109 applies to that. हमने पहले ही देखा था. Borrowing Ind AS 23 will not apply. That's why they are not a qualifying asset. Okay. And assets that are ready for their intended use or sale when acquired. अगर ready-made asset मुझे मिला and I am able to put it to use immediately, then again it is not a qualifying asset because उसको कोई time ही नहीं लगा. Immediately मेरे पास आ गया. I can use it, right? So now here only one thing I would like to say, that in case of real estate, आपने देखा होगा कि प्रोजेक्ट 3 साल चलता है, 4 साल चलता है, right? But time and again, once I start my construction, I will try to sell also, right? Builders do that. So standard says, अभी standard में तो up till that time everybody was actually under the impression that ये मेरा qualifying asset है, that project itself, right? Real estate project जो मेरा चल रहा है, because it is for me it's an inventory, so it because it takes substantial period of time, maybe 2-3 years to complete that project, it becomes my qualifying asset. But under IFRS, IASB में जो IFRIC committee है, at present they are having this subject जिसके ऊपर they have asked for the opinion and views of the public also, users also. There they are actually thinking if I have booked some of the inventories, like the project में मैंने थोड़े flat समझो बेच दिए हैं, right? I have entered into a agreement for sale. Then they say that this becomes a characteristics as debtors and it becomes a financial asset. So to that extent, जो आपने flat sale कर दिए हैं during the project, उसके ऊपर का जितना भी आपका cost लगेगा, which is a borrowing cost, वो आप उसके ऊपर कैपिटलाइज नहीं करोगे क्योंकि जैसे वो तो आपने बेच दिया है, तो अभी आपका वो फाइनेंशियल एसेट हो गया है, डेटर्स हो गया है. सो वंस इट इज अ फाइनेंशियल एसेट, स्टैंडर्ड सेज यू, बिकॉज दैट इज नॉट अ क्वालिफाइंग एसेट, आप उसके ऊपर इंटरेस्ट नहीं कैपिटलाइज करोगे. दिस इज अ वेरी वेरी सेंसिटिव इश्यू. अगर अगर IFRS ने स्टैंडर्ड अमेंड कर दिया, we were expecting के मार्च के पहले करने वाले हैं, but luckily अब तक नहीं हुआ है. But as and when IFRS does that, automatically we will have to also do under Ind AS, and based on that Ind AS 8, जो पैरा 10, 11, 12 अपने को बोलता है कि दूसरे स्टैंडर्ड्स में अगर दूसरा कोई गैप में they made the changes, then for that particular type of item I will have to follow that treatment. So it is going to have a huge impact in real estate projects. Hopefully अगर जितना वो डिले हो सकता है, बट अगर आज मुझे कोई पूछता है, बिकॉज मेनी रियल एस्टेट कंपनीज उनके जो CFO मुझे पूछते हैं, राजेश भाई व्हाट डू यू फील, मुझे करना चाहिए कि नहीं करना चाहिए, तो आई हैव एडवाइस के भाई अगर आप कर सकते हो तो दिस इज मार्च 2020 लास्ट, ऐसा समझो आप. क्योंकि अगर IFRS ने उसको अमेंड कर दिया, then nobody will permit you to do this under Ind AS. So that is your chance. अगर आपको लेना है तो आप ले सकते हो, आप कैपिटलाइज करो, लेकिन नेक्स्ट ईयर के लिए I can't guarantee because of this. Already this is matter is very much hot, और वहाँ पे IFRIC लेवल पे उसका डिस्कशन अभी होने वाला है, and if they come out with the amendment, huge impact आने वाला है as far as the real estate companies are concerned. So let's hope कि कब आता है we don't know, but आएगा तो then yes, this is how they will treat it as. So जितने इन्वेंटरी आप बेच दिए रहेंगे, उस they will not be treated as a qualifying asset, और उसके ऊपर आप फाइनेंस कॉस्ट चार्ज नहीं कर सकोगे, कैपिटलाइज नहीं कर सकोगे, वो P&L में जाएगा. आप सोच सकते हो कि कितना बड़ा इम्पैक्ट आ सकता है इसके ऊपर. So I think this was the main important point I wanted to highlight. Aki recognition, as you know, that as per the core principle, entity shall capitalize borrowing costs that are directly attributable to the acquisition, construction, or production of following asset when it is probable that they will result in future benefits to the entity and cost can be realized measurably. So यहाँ पे guidance क्या है? That cost should be directly attributable. So यहाँ पे the standard says that how to identify. Then they say that borrowing cost that would have been avoided if the expenditure on the qualifying asset had not been made. So यहाँ पे they are saying this is where our EAC opinions differs. EAC opinion हाई कोर्ट ने भी क्या बोला for the purpose of income tax या अगर आप प्रूव कर सकते हो कि there is a nexus ये मेरा जो मैंने एसेट खरीदा है that is out of my retained earnings and not from the borrowings, then high courts have allowed that कि okay तो इसका मतलब है कि आपको कैपिटलाइज करने की जरूरत है, expense you can claim as a P&L item. EAC opinion also has been there that if you are able to prove that nexus, then no need to capitalize. Okay, आप बोल सकते हो कि मेरा रिटेन अर्निंग्स में से मैंने किया, फिर आउट ऑफ इश्यू ऑफ द न्यू कैपिटल यू बॉट दैट एसेट, सो आपको कैपिटलाइजेशन नहीं लगेगा. However, under Ind AS and IFRS, what they are saying that you have to presume that अगर मैं एसेट आज मैं खरीद रहा हूं, अगर मैं एसेट नहीं खरीदता था तो एक्सपेंडिचर नहीं होता था, then I would have been able to repay the existing borrowing to that extent. तो इसका मतलब है इनडायरेक्ट बोलता है आपको कि अगर ये मैं खर्चा ही नहीं करता था तो मेरे पास सरप्लस बचता था, and that surplus I would have used for repaying the existing loan. So that's why they are going okay, for the purpose of directly attributable, you have to see that those borrowing costs that would have been avoided if the expenditure on qualifying asset had not been made. So this is how you have to read it. Okay, so यहाँ पे वो difference है between EAC opinions, high court decisions and how the standard Ind AS 23 reads it. So यहाँ पे problem आ सकता है. So avoidable concept है यहाँ पे. Okay, so इसका मतलब है जितना भी आपका existing loans है, इसका मतलब है आपको अगर एसेट क्वालिफाइंग है तो उसके ऊपर कैपिटलाइजेशन करना जरूरी हो जाएगा, even though you have not specifically borrowed some money for acquiring this asset, because आपके पास अगर existing loan भी है तो स्टैंडर्ड बोलता है कि आप अगर खर्चा नहीं करते थे तो आप वो लोन रीपे कर सकते थे. Because you have not repaid and incurred this expenditure, then it means indirectly you have used those funds from the general borrowing. So आप capitalization करो. This is how the standard reads. Okay. Next, measurement. So now if there is an funds मैंने specific asset buy करने के लिए किया है तो then we call it as a funds borrowed specifically. Then actual borrowing cost minus investment income on temporary investment, और net जो आएगा आंसर I will capitalize because I can prove कि जो मैंने term loan लिया है that is specifically for that particular project, so there is a nexus I will able to prove. तो पूरे का पूरा उसका जो खर्चा है actual cost I will be able to capitalize subject to that fulfillment of conditions. और in temporarily अगर because it was a specific loan which I had borrowed, टेम्पररी अगर मैंने पार्क किया है बिकॉज मेरा प्रोजेक्ट में उसको जरूरत नहीं था फॉर द टेम्पररी पीरियड, तो उसका इनकम जो भी आएगा दैट आल्सो आई हैव टू फर्स्ट नेट इट ऑफ अगेंस्ट द कॉस्ट एंड नेट अमाउंट आई कैन कैपिटलाइज. दिस इज व्हाट द स्टैंडर्ड सेज. नाउ इन अनदर एग्जांपल, थोड़ा मैंने स्पेसिफिक लोन लिया, बाकी का पैसा मैंने फंड्स जो मेरे पास था जनरली बोरोड किया हुआ था उसको अप्लाई किया है. आई हैव यूज्ड दोस फंड्स आल्सो. Then the standard says for that purpose you have to apply a capitalization rate to the expenditure on the asset to determine borrowing cost eligible for capitalization. So यहाँ पे capitalization rate find करना है. Examples मैंने दिए हुए हैं तो we will see. Okay, और you have to test that asset after including that cost कि whether वो impair करने की तो जरूरत नहीं है because Ind AS 36 always will apply. Next, measurement commencement of capital. Now क्वालिफाइंग एसेट है, उसके लिए आपने बोरो किया है, स्पेसिफिक हो सकता है, जनरल हो सकता है, दैट वी हैव सीन. नाउ व्हेन टू कमेंस कैपिटलाइजेशन, दैट इज द मेन टाइम. तो यहाँ पे यू हैव टू फुलफिल दैट 3 कंडीशंस, राइट? Begin capitalizing borrowing cost as part of the cost of qualifying asset on the commencement date. Now what is that commencement date? Then when these 3 conditions are fulfilled. First is it incurs expenditure for the asset, it incurs borrowing cost, and it undertakes activities that are necessary to prepare the asset for its intended use or sale. So when you are able to fulfill all the 3 conditions, that will be the date when the commencement will start for capitalization of borrowing cost. तब तक आप उसको capitalize नहीं कर सकते. Correct? Next. Now there is one item we call it as suspension of capitalization. जरूरी नहीं है कि पूरा मेरा asset continuous काम चालू रहेगा. बीच में suppose for any other reason डिले हो गया है, मैंने उसको थोड़े टाइम के लिए रोक दिया है कंस्ट्रक्शन, then the standard says कि you during that extended period of time when you have actually stopped construction, वो पीरियड के लिए आपको सस्पेंड करना पड़ेगा कैपिटलाइजेशन. यू कैन नॉट कैपिटलाइज फॉर दैट पर्टिकुलर पीरियड. व्हाटएवर जो आपका बोरोइंग कॉस्ट लगा, दैट विल गो टू P&L अकाउंट. यू कैन नॉट कैपिटलाइज टू दैट एसेट व्हिच यू हैव स्टॉप्ड कंस्ट्रक्टिंग फॉर दैट पर्टिकुलर एक्सटेंडेड पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. ओके, सो यहाँ पे केस आएगा कि अगर मेरा कोविड की वजह से बिकॉज ऑफ दिस लॉकडाउन मैं ऑनगोइंग मेरा जो कोई भी प्रोजेक्ट रहेगा जो क्वालिफाइंग एसेट है, I am not able to do any construction work on that, right? So whether इसको suspension में आएगा या I can say that this is actually out of my control, so I should be permitted. So यहाँ पे actually there are different views. Clarity इतना नहीं है, but one view is that के यहाँ पे word जो use करा है ना, shall suspend लिखते हैं. An entity shall suspend capitalization of borrowing cost. So it is like mandatory they are saying. If COVID के लिए that is extraordinary, right, exceptional thing. It is not normal circumstances, right? भले आप बोलो कि it is applicable to everybody, but standard is very clear that because it is mandatory, otherwise they would have said may suspend. They are using the word shall suspend. So it is like mandatorily they are saying if it is not a normal condition, then you cannot continue capitalization for that period. So possibility है कि for this COVID period, even though it is not in the control of the entity, possibility is that it will be treated as exceptional items and capitalization will not be permitted. But if the management wants to take a view, then they will have to disclose everything and why they feel that also will have to be disclosed. Then maybe yes, possible. Otherwise, prima facie I feel maybe it is not permitted. Okay. Now cessation of capitalization. When it should stop permanently? Very easy. When that qualifying asset is substantially ready for the intended use or sale. Correct. जो काम के लिए qualifying asset बनाने का था, that substantially it is ready or for its intended use or sale. That is the date when I will cease capitalizing borrowing cost. And it can happen that मेरा समझो 3 बिल्डिंग है ABC, so पहला मेरा A complete हो सकता है, then B complete हो सकता है, and then C complete. So I should not wait for the whole project to get completed. Part में भी अगर मेरा building complete हो गया, like A wing मेरा complete हो गया, then the standard says के for if A wing can be independently occupied and used for the intended use, then उसको complete गिना जाएगा. So A wing के लिए जो भी आपका borrowings था उसका कैपिटलाइजेशन बंद हो जाएगा, खाली बी और सी का चालू रहेगा. सो इन पार्ट भी अगर वो कंप्लीट है एंड दैट पार्ट कैन बी यूटिलाइज इंडिपेंडेंटली ऑफ अदर पार्ट्स, देन कैपिटलाइजेशन ऑफ बोरोइंग कॉस्ट विल स्टॉप. अनदर एग्जांपल जहाँ पे कंटिन्यूअस प्रोसेस है, मेरा मैंने एक प्लांट बना रहा हूँ केमिकल की इंडस्ट्री में एंड ईच प्रोसेस इज एक्चुअली इंटरलिंक्ड. सो मेरा अगर पार्ट ऑफ द प्लांट इज रेडी, बट वो मेरा प्रोसेस ऐसा है कि मेरा दूसरा जब तक कंप्लीट नहीं होगा तब तक आई कांट स्टार्ट दैट प्रोसेस. देन हियर वी से दैट अनलेस दैट होल प्लांट इज रेडी, जिसके अंदर मेरा 3 या 4 छोटे छोटे अलग छोटे छोटे प्लांट्स हो सकते हैं, बट बिकॉज ऑल आर इंटरलिंक, क्योंकि एक के बाद दूसरे में मटेरियल जाएगा, वहां से तीसरे में जाएगा, एंड देन दैट फिनिश प्रोडक्ट विल कम आउट. So unless that all the full plant is ready, I can't say that my part is ready. So यहाँ पे in this case पूरा प्लांट को एक ही गिना जाएगा, और जब तक वो फर्स्ट से लेकर लास्ट तक कंप्लीट नहीं होगा, I will continue capitalization, right? So this is how you have to look at it. Next, disclosure. An entity shall disclose the amount of borrowing cost capitalized during the period and the capitalization rate used to determine the amount of borrowing cost eligible for capitalization. These are the two items which we have to disclose. Simple. Now next. Now friends, these are all I have taken case studies. We will try to complete whatever is possible. Otherwise, MCQs I have given 30 MCQs because I thought that it will help you to clarify your concepts about Ind AS-23. That's why I have given those. So we will try that how much we can complete. Otherwise, I will give you the answers, and then you can work on that. And if any doubts, then you can post me on the WhatsApp group. I will try to reply those things. Right? So case study 1. Here actually how to determine my borrowing cost which is eligible for capitalization. So they have given that 55 lakhs is my project cost, and it is going to take 2.5 years, and they have given that after 1 year this is the position. So बीच में एक साल आ गया है, तो एक साल के बाद का क्या position है. So they said के at the end of that 1 year how much cost can be capitalized. So that is what we have to find. तो यहाँ पे उन्होंने दिया है कि there is a special loan they have taken for this of 1 crore on which it pays 11% per annum, right? The amount of interest attributable to the 1 year period during which the project was financed is 11 lakh. That also they have given. So 55 lakhs के लिए जो मेरा capitalization cost था, that they have said it is 11 lakhs. They have calculated. The surplus funds in the loan amount minus the amount expended for the project on piecemeal basis as and when the required are parked in a fixed deposit. तो 7% fixed deposit में मैंने park किया है, तो उसका मुझे income आ रहा है, तो that they have given it is 3,15,000 at the end of year 1. So based on this information, the amount of borrowing cost eligible for capitalization, this is how much that they are asking. So 11 lakhs minus investment income, because this is a specific loan, तो उसके सामने जो भी मेरा income है, that I will have to first reduce. So 11 minus 3.15, so I will get 7.85, correct? So that is my answer. Next, case study 2. Yeah, here actually जो general borrowing we have, right? So here we will use that how to find out capitalization rate for the purpose of capitalizing. तो यहाँ पे अपने को क्या है, weighted average find करना पड़ेगा. So there they have said that company has borrowed 22 million or asset cost is 20 million, right? So 2 million extra उन्होंने borrow किया. They are saying that they will be utilizing for working capital purpose. And they have given the breakup of loan, कि कितना loan कितने rate पे उन्होंने लिया हुआ है, right? And they have said के थोड़ा amount side पे पड़ा था, तो उसके ऊपर 5 lakhs rupees they have earned as the income. So now they want us to determine how would the company treat the borrowing cost, how would it be capitalizing the borrowing cost, and what would it do to the investment income. Okay. So answer. So here we will find out first weighted average. So very simple. आप पूरे साल का पहले कितना इंटरेस्ट आता है, that you apply, divide by the number of the total amount of borrowing. So your interest comes to 1.81 million divided by 22 million total borrowing. Then you are getting a weighted average capitalization rate on general borrowing, that is 8.22%, right? So now this, once you have determined what is my rate, capitalization rate, that you have to apply to the cost of the asset, qualifying asset. So 20 million is our cost into 8.22% per annum. That is our capitalization rate, which we need to apply because my borrowings are general borrowings, and this has to be for 2 years, right? Because ये 2 साल का था. So that I will apply 2 years ka. So I am getting 32,88,000 as my answer. Now point is, what about that 5 lakhs rupees? Should I reduce it or I should not? Actually, standard is very clear. If there is a specific borrowing and out of that specific borrowing temporarily अगर मैंने funds कहीं दूसरी जगह पे डाला है, then only I can reduce it from my cost. Otherwise, if it is out of general borrowing, I am not able to find out कि ये 5 लाख कौन से में से आया है, then standard is very clear, you cannot reduce. So my view is that you cannot reduce that 5 lakhs. Answer will be 32.88 lakhs. Next. Okay. These are the differences that you can go through. Now, most important is issues, right? Because this will clear your doubts. Or MCQ will be homework for you. Because I think that are also, once you know these issues, then you will be able to answer those ones. But these issues I want to cover, so maybe another 10 minutes I will take for these issues. Management intent for deciding whether asset is qualifying asset or not. So because the standard says that to be a qualifying asset, it should take substantial period of time to get ready for its intended use or sale. So here the point is whether we should take into consideration while determining whether that is a qualifying asset or not. Okay, what is the intention of the management? The standard says yes, you need to keep in mind. Like मैं कुछ परचेस किया है तो मुझे बेचने के लिए मैंने परचेस किया है. I want to use it with other assets. If it is to be used it with other asset, then मेरा intended use खाली यहाँ पे रुकना नहीं है. I am going to मुझे दूसरा एसेट भी रेडी करना है. जब तक वो रेडी नहीं होता है तब तक इसके ऊपर I can say that it is my qualifying asset because I will use it with the other asset which is also under construction. तो ये जो पहले वाला एसेट है उसको मैं बोलूंगा कि ये मेरा इंटेंडेड यूज के लिए अभी तक रेडी नहीं है, सो इट बिकम्स माय क्वालिफाइंग एसेट एंड आई कैन कैपिटलाइज. बट अगर मेरा लगता है कि नहीं ये मेरा आज के दिन में रेडी है बिकॉज जिसके लिए मैंने परचेस किया था दैट इंटेंडेड यूज इज ऑलरेडी नाउ, देन it's not a qualifying asset. So that's why intention is important. We will take example. Case 1. Right? A telecom company has acquired a 3G license. The license could be sold or licensed to a third party, right? However, management intends to use it to operate a wireless network. Development of network starts when the license is acquired. Should the borrowing cost on the acquisition of 3G license be capitalized until the network is ready for intended use? So here उन्होंने बोला है कि लाइसेंस आप बेच भी सकते हो या थर्ड पार्टी को भी दे सकते हो, या फिर अगर लाइसेंस को आपको यूज करना है तो वायरलेस नेटवर्क के लिए आप कर सकते हो, राइट? बिकॉज दैट इज व्हाट वी स्पेक्ट्रम का लाइसेंस जो लेते हैं, दैट इज व्हाट दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. तो यहाँ पे वी हैव टू सी दैट व्हाट इज द इंटेंशन ऑफ द मैनेजमेंट. अगर उनका वो लाइसेंस इसलिए ले रहे हैं कि बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली दे वांट टू प्रोवाइड सर्विस टू द यूजर्स बेस्ड ऑन द मोबाइल नेटवर्क सर्विसेज, इंटरनेट सर्विसेज, इसलिए उन्होंने 3G लाइसेंस लिया है, देन इवन दो मेरा 3G लाइसेंस आज के दिन में मुझे मिल गया, पूरा रेडी है, बट जब तक मेरा नेटवर्क कंप्लीट नहीं होता है तब तक आई कैन नॉट स्टार्ट दैट इंटेंडेड यूज. देन इन दिस केस लाइसेंस बिकम्स माय क्वालिफाइंग एसेट. ओके, बिकॉज पूरा मुझे नेटवर्क के लिए जितना भी टाइम लगेगा उसके साथ उसको गिना जाएगा. सो देन आई कैन बी एबल टू कैपिटलाइज. दिस इज व्हाट द आंसर इज. राइट? सेम वे रियल एस्टेट कंपनी में, a real estate company has incurred expenses for the acquisition of permit allowing the construction of a building. It has also acquired equipment that will be used for construction of various buildings. Okay. Can borrowing cost on acquisition of permit and the equipment be capitalized until the construction of building is complete? यहाँ पे आप देखेंगे तो two parts है. One, permit मैंने लिया है for particular building का construction करने के लिए. Unless I have that permit, I cannot construct that building. So it is directly linked with that construction of building. So permit, yes, it's a qualifying asset. But equipment में क्या है? It's a general equipment. किसी भी साइट पे मैं बेच सकता हूँ. तो इसका मतलब है कि as on the date of purchase, it was ready for its intended use, right? So it will not be a qualifying asset. So first part is yes, second part is no. Hope you that I think you are able to now understand how to do that. Now capitalization of notional or opportunity cost. Standard is very clear. जैसे हमने देखा था कि notional नहीं, actual borrowing cost होना चाहिए, right? Because that is one of the criteria. 3 जो criteria था, उसमें एक था कि आपका actual incur होना चाहिए cost. Then only you will start capitalization. Otherwise you cannot do. So आप हवा में नहीं बोल सकते. अगर like in this case they are saying that entity has no borrowings and uses its own cash resources to finance the construction, right? तो वो बोलता है कि क्या मैं इसके ऊपर नोशनल इंटरेस्ट डाल सकता हूँ? बिकॉज अगर मैं यहाँ पे नहीं यूज करता था तो उसको मैं एफडी में डाल सकता था, तो आई वुड हैव अर्न इंटरेस्ट. सो वेदर दैट इज परमिटेड? आंसर इज वेरी क्लियर, नो. बिकॉज आंसर वेरी स्टैंडर्ड इज क्लियर दैट फर्स्ट यू शुड बी एबल टू इनकर द कॉस्ट. अगर आपका बोरोइंग कॉस्ट ही नहीं है तो यू कांट कैपिटलाइज नोशनल बेसिस पे, या अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट थोड़ी आप कैपिटलाइज करोगे. इट शुड बी एक्चुअली इनकर्ड, राइट? So that's why answer is no here. Third issue which can come, asset acquired by intercompany loan by subsidiary and its capitalization. So if subsidiary को parent ने अगर लोन दी हुई है तो वेदर सब्सिडियरी अपने बुक में उसके ऊपर जो भी इंटरेस्ट है उसको कैपिटलाइज कर सकती है कि नहीं? आंसर इज यस. क्योंकि सब्सिडियरी ने अगर जो भी उसके ऊपर एक्चुअल इंटरेस्ट पे किया है एंड इफ दैट एसेट इज क्वालिफाइंग एसेट देन in a separate financial statement subsidiary can show it. Okay. Fourth issue can be subsidiary finances asset through increase of capital by parent. So parent ने subsidiary ने capital issue किया, share capital, parent ने उसको subscribe किया, so funds has come via equity. तो क्या और subsidiary is acquiring a qualifying asset, so whether subsidiary can notionally book that borrowing cost? Answer is very clear, no. करेक्ट, बिकॉज हमने देखा है कि नोशनल कॉस्ट कैनॉट बी, क्योंकि इक्विटी पे तो उसको कोई ब्याज देना ही नहीं पड़ा ना पेरेंट को, इट्स इक्विटी. फिफ्थ इश्यू कैन बी कैपिटलाइजेशन ऑफ प्रेफरेंस डिविडेंड एज अ फाइनेंस कॉस्ट. दैट आई थिंक वी हैव कवर्ड. Ind AS 32 में अगर if it's a preference share capital which is actually treated as a liability and not equity, then like redeemable preferences for example, and उसका जो अगर मेरा डिविडेंड है वो फिक्स्ड है या क्यूमुलेटिव बेसिस पे है and not at the discretion of the issuer, because अगर वो discretion of the issuer पे हुआ then it will be treated as a equity under Ind AS 23, then that will not be a qualifying interest, right? But अगर preference shares are my redeemable preference shares, so that it is defined as a liability as per Ind AS 32, उसके ऊपर का डिविडेंड मेरा फिक्स्ड है और क्यूमुलेटिव है, जिसका मतलब है कि मैनेजमेंट हैज नो राइट, इश्यूअर हैज नो राइट टू से डिक्लाइन डिविडेंड. इन दैट केस it can be treated as a finance cost, and if you are fulfilling the other conditions for qualifying asset, then this dividend on that preference shares can be capitalized as a finance cost, otherwise not. Right? Next, sixth issue, interest income from temporary investment from borrowing, general borrowing. So as we have seen, स्पेसिफिक बोरोइंग है, उसके सामने मेरा अगर कोई टेम्पररी इन्वेस्टमेंट की वजह से आई एम गेटिंग सम इंटरेस्ट income, then it can go to reduce. Otherwise, if it is a general borrowing, standard is very clear, you cannot do. Next, change in the nature of specific borrowing into general borrowing. So another issue is whether a specific borrowing undertaken to obtain a qualifying asset ever changes its nature into general borrowing. Answer is no till the time that asset is there. हाँ, अगर समझो आपका जिस एसेट के लिए आपने उसको बोरो किया था और once that asset is ready and you are you have to actually as per terms you need to repay this loans, but आप repay नहीं कर रहे हो, right, and आप उसको extend कर रहे हो, then in that case it becomes a general borrowing. Otherwise, if it is specific borrowing and linked to that thing and you are actually repaying as per the terms of that loan, then it is a specific borrowing, it is not a general borrowing. But अगर आप उसको extend कर रहे हो, right, renew कर रहे हो, और जबकि आपका वो जो एसेट था वो आपका बन के रेडी हो गया है, फिर भी आप ये लोन रीपे करने की जगह आप एक्सटेंड कर रहे हो, दूसरी जगह यूज कर रहे हो, देन इट कैन बी कंसिडर्ड एज अ जनरल बोरोइंग, राइट. नेक्स्ट, in this case again one more example है जो that I think you should try to solve it. कि यहाँ पे देव गिवन के बोरोइंग किया हुआ है, राइट, वेरियस अमाउंट्स देव गिवन की, कोई मैंने स्पेसिफिक बोरोइंग की है, कोई मेरे जनरल बोरोइंग में से है, तो एंड प्लस डिफरेंट माइलस्टोन के मुताबिक पेमेंट्स हैव बीन मेड ऑन डिफरेंट डेट्स. देन हाउ टू कैलकुलेट मेरा स्पेसिफिक बोरोइंग का कॉस्ट एंड माय रेट ऑफ कैपिटलाइजेशन जो बोलते हैं, हाउ वी कैलकुलेट, दिस इज दैट स्टैंडर्ड. ओके, सो बेस्ड ऑन दैट directly we go to answer actually. Next, yeah, so यहाँ पे माइलस्टोन के मुताबिक जो पेमेंट हो रहा है, तो फर्स्ट जो 7 lakhs का मेरा लोन है उसको मैं पहले स्पेसिफिक बोरोइंग के मुताबिक फर्स्ट आई विल रिमूव इट बिकॉज दैट इज लिंक्ड. सो पहले 2 lakh मैंने उसमें से निकाला, फिर स्पेसिफिक बोरोइंग जो 7 था उसमें से 5 बचा, तो नेक्स्ट मैंने 6 lakhs का पेमेंट किया है, तो उसमें से 5 विल बी आउट ऑफ दैट स्पेसिफिक बोरोइंग, और अभी जो बाकी का 1 लाख में दे रहा हूँ दैट इज जनरल बोरोइंग में से, तो दैट इज कम्स फर्स्ट टाइम. फिर दूसरा माइलस्टोन मैंने दिया वो 1200 का, दैट आल्सो फ्रॉम जनरल बोरोइंग, और तीसरा भी मैंने जो दिया वो जनरल बोरोइंग से दिया, तो आई हैव यूज्ड दैट जनरल बोरोइंग टू द एक्सटेंट ऑफ दैट 1500, राइट. और उसका फिर मैं कितना पीरियड के लिए वेट है वो अप्लाई करूंगा, कितने मंथ्स के लिए, एंड अकॉर्डिंगली आई विल फाइंड दैट अमाउंट बेस्ड ऑन वेटेड period. So that comes to 3,75,000. Okay, so now I will find out my capitalization rate. तो weighted average cost के लिए मुझे the specific जो मैंने borrowing किया था 12.5% वाला वो 1,000 था, and total general borrowing is 2,500. तो वो मैं weighted average find करूंगा, so I am getting 11% as the capitalization rate. So this 375 जो मुझे आया उसके ऊपर I will use that 11%. Correct. So now they have given specific loan पे 65,000 is the cost they have incurred. General borrowing के I will use 11% on that 3,75,000 जो weighted average मेरा आया funds का, और तो that comes to 41,250. उसमें से because that 20,000 I hold on to that specific borrowing, so that is eligible for reduction, so that I will reduce. So my answer is 86,250. This is how we will have to use this, right. Now ये जो इश्यू है वो क्या है कि जो मैंने बोला था EAC और हाई कोर्ट ने ये डिसीजन लिया है, इफ यू आर एबल टू लिंक विद द सोर्स ऑफ इंटरनल एक्टिविटी, कि मैं बोलता हूँ कि ये मैंने जो एसेट खरीदा है दैट इज आउट ऑफ माय रिजर्व्स एंड नॉट फ्रॉम बोरोइंग व्हिच इज देयर इन माय बैलेंस शीट, दिस स्टैंडर्ड विल नॉट परमिट यू बिकॉज हियर द नोशन इज ऑफ अवॉइडेबल कॉस्ट. अगर आप जनरल बोरोइंग को आप रीपे कर सकते थे आपने नहीं किया क्योंकि आपने क्वालिफाइंग एसेट परचेस करने के लिए उसको इनकर किया है, तो you cannot say that मेरा लिंक है so I don't want to capitalize. You will have to capitalize. Okay, answer is no. Next, option to capitalize cost of borrowing is the ratio of debt equity, whether that is permitted. मैं बोलता हूँ कि मेरा 20% equity है, 80% is my other current and non-current liability including interest bearing debt. So can I say that total में से मैं 80% जो भी asset का value आएगा, on that only I will capitalize and not on the 20% because that is my equity I am using. Again the answer is same, no, avoidable पे जाता है. So वैसे भी equity allowed नहीं है, right? So they saying that you should have repaid the loan, और आपने नहीं repay किया, you have used for the qualifying asset. So capitalization will have to be done. Clear? And I think this is the last issue. अगर मैं I am not actually constructing, I have placed an order with the third party, okay, और उसको मैं installments में payment कर रहा हूँ as per the milestone, then whether whatever borrowing cost I am paying on that installments which I am making towards that purchase of asset, whether that will be considered for the qualifying asset or not, that is the question. Answer is yes, if you are able to fulfill that three conditions. तो उसके ऊपर case study 4 मैंने लिया है, next one. So there it will be very clear. यहाँ पे क्या है, there is one रफ्तार limited. उन्होंने 2 एयरक्राफ्ट परचेस करने का ऑर्डर दिया है. The manufacturer will deliver the aircraft in March 2019. This so 3 years का time लगेगा. The company is required to make down payment of 50% for each aircraft at the time of placing the order. The balance amount is payable on delivery. The company funded the entire down payment from bank borrowings. The manufacturer is informed that manufacture of each aircraft, including planning, production of parts and assembly, involves a typical time period of 24 to 30 months. The manufacturer will start the manufacturing process for aircraft in September 2016. Can the company capitalize the borrowing cost for down payment? And if yes, from which date? Okay, so हमने जो 3 condition है वो fulfill कर दिया, तो that date will be the date when I can do. So we have to first see that whether I am able to fulfill that criteria. एक criteria क्या है? Expenditure for the acquisition, construction or production of the qualifying asset is incurred. Means company उसको 50% down payment किया, इसका मतलब है कि expenditure is incurred. So first criteria is met. Second क्या था? Borrowing costs are being incurred. The company is incurring the borrowing cost on the amount borrowed from, because here they have said that specifically borrowing किया है payment करने के लिए. So that second condition also company is able to fulfill. Now the last condition is what? Activities that are necessary to prepare an asset for intended use वो progress में होना चाहिए. तो the third party जो हमारा कर रहा है, right, standard ने कहीं भी नहीं लिखा है कि that should company should itself construct that asset. They are saying that activities for preparation of that asset should be in progress. If you are able to fulfill these 3 conditions, then that costs are eligible for capitalization. So यहाँ पे instead of I doing that construction of aircraft, I have placed the order, so that manufacturer will start doing, और वहाँ पे वो September से चालू करने वाला है, right? So even though I have placed the order and made that payment maybe in suppose March, but September तक that third condition कि सामने वाला उसको manufacturing is started वो fulfill नहीं कर रहा हूँ. So between that April to September period जो भी मेरा interest लगेगा, that I will not be able to capitalize. But from September 2016 I am fulfilling all the 3 conditions. So from that date onwards I will be able to capitalize that cost as a part of my qualifying asset. Clear? So next one is what? Borrowing, group borrowing cost. Parent के books में borrowing है, but subsidiary के books में qualifying asset है. So whether that can be capitalized in the subsidiary's separate financial statement, because subsidiary has not incurred any expenditure cost on the borrowing, it cannot do, right? But maybe at the group level, if it is proved that parent has incurred the borrowing cost, so at consolidation में अगर आप prove कर सकते हो, then you can in consolidation level it will be qualified as a qualifying asset and capitalization is possible. But at subsidiary separate balance sheet level, because in subsidiaries books there are no expenditure towards borrowing cost, it cannot be capitalized. But consolidation may, yes. Okay. Fine. So friends, now actually if you will see, there are 30 MCQs which I have given. So hope you will be able to solve all these MCQs, and then you can post me whatever queries if you have on these MCQs, and if you are not able to solve it, then I will give you the answers, right? But I think this is a practice homework for all of you, and I am very confident that you will be able to solve all these 30 MCQs. So that's all from my side. Thank you everybody. So Virag ji.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rajesh sir. Hello.
Yes.
Bafna sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Yes, sir. So, Virag.
Thanks. Yes, I am here.
Yeah. So, on behalf of What Next Team CS of Mumbai, Rajesh sir, we thanks to you for giving your auspicious time, and I request now TC Bafna sir to give a formal vote of thanks to our speaker.
Thank you, Abhishek, and with this Virag bhai for arranging the very nice this seminar. And our speaker, this Rajesh Mody sahab, is a great expert in the line accounting standard, the master in the accounting standard and all this, because he is implement in ICICI and this PCS and all the other indices also. So he is very expert in this accounting standard implementation in the best ways. So this lecture is very widely narrated by this Rajesh ji, and very beneficial to our viewers and professionals for implication of the accounting standard for this AS 23 and 105. So thank you very much again to Rajesh Mody for their great contributor to our the professional ethics and the professional life for this very important accounting standard. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank you.
Bafna ji and Virag ji for giving this opportunity. And hope
Yeah.
actually I have tried my best so that I can clear all the concepts as far as the standards allotted to me. And as I said, if anybody has any doubts, I am available. You can send me a mail, or WhatsApp group is there, so you can post your queries in the WhatsApp group, and I will be glad to reply and solve to the best of my ability. Thanks again for inviting me and giving me this opportunity, Virag bhai.
Thank you,
Sir,
sir.
thank you very much, sir. So now we are closing this webinar. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night,
Good
sir.
night, sir.